Bonjour tout le monde et merci d'être présent pour la journée numéro 5 de notre Masterclass en français. So thank you very much everyone for being here. I was just saying offline that I cannot believe it's already on day 5 and I hope that you have enjoyed the classes so far as much as I have. We have very familiar faces every day, which must be good news. Today is a little bit of a bonus session, okay? We're on day 5, and as a brief recap, day 1 to 4, we looked at a lot of learning strategies, haven't we? Personality in color, what type of learner you are and what's going to trick your brain into learning French better and faster. We looked at a blend of different techniques, online, offline, different resources, the way that you use those resources and how that can really help you to learn a foreign language. Yesterday, we talked about how to live the language and how you can engage with the language. The day before, we looked at planning your language lessons and your language journey as a whole with a bit of a blueprint of how we do things here at the Academy, and that works very well. Today, the reason why it's a bonus session, it's because we want to talk to you about confidence in language learning. And I think I'm right in saying that when people talk about starting to learn a new foreign language, about improving their language skill, about reaching mastery. So regardless of where you are in your language learning journey at the moment, whenever we have an open discussion about it, confidence is a word that comes right at the top of the list. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. The thing is that there are many ways that you can be more confident in a foreign language, but today we want it to be more of an open forum. Why? Because confidence is an inner emotion, isn't it? It's something that is deeply personal. So it is something that can vary from one person to another, from one student to another, an awful lot. And whilst I feel very qualified and experienced to give you the tools to learn French, looking at all that we've covered from day 1 to day 4 with lots of different learning strategies and a lot of planning that I'm an expert at, I really wouldn't feel comfortable telling you how you as a learner of French can become more confident. I don't think that I am qualified to do so, and I don't think that I know you well enough to confidently say that I can tell you how to be confident learning, experiencing, progressing in French. But what my team and I can do is give you even more tools or tell you about stories that hopefully will inspire you. And I think that a lot of people on the call have learned French or another foreign language before. So I would really love to hear about your experiences and how you may have found that you were getting more confident in French using one thing or another, being in an environment or another. Okay, does that sound good? Yeah. Obviously, I always share with you that the reason why I love the job that I do is because, number one, being bilingual has opened many doors for me in my private and professional life. It made me be more confident with myself as well as a person, undoubtedly. But also, I don't do what I do just to teach languages. You know, my why is a little bit deeper than that. My why is 100% in the confidence that I give students as human beings, not just as students. I absolutely love observing the boost that people get when they feel they can achieve something through a foreign language. That truly is where I get a great kick out of what I do. As you know, I started teaching very young children. And more recently, I've run a series of videos and I interviewed one of my oldest students who is now 24. She came to my French classes when she was maybe 4 or 5. And we had an interview. She's now fluent in French. She studied for a year in Paris. And she now works in the city with French. And I said to her at the end of the interview, thank you so much for having been there 20 years ago when it all started, because I certainly would not be where I am today if it wasn't for children like you who completely inspired me and made my job a dream. And she replied, no, I owe you more. And this has made my day, my week, my year. I'll remember this on my deathbed for sure. And that's truly, I think, what languages do to you when done in a proper way, or experience in a really nice, pleasant way. They give you a huge amount of confidence. So again, the reason why I would rather we shared stories or talked perhaps openly about some of the resources of experiences that we've had is because, again, I think that confidence is kind of an inner feeling and is super personal. Some people will say, oh, just have a go. You know, you go to the country, go on holiday, even in your French class, just have a go and then you'll get more confident. For some other people, they cannot think of anything worse. Others will say that school has given them a really good grounding. So it's made them confident enough to look at taking their language studies to the next level. Unfortunately, the way the school education system has been set up, and that's not where we are here in the UK, but in many European or world country, all the countries in the world, very much dampens students' opinion of themselves of being able to learn a foreign language. So for some people, school teaching has meant that they left school thinking, nope, like learning a foreign language is just not good for me. Sometimes, such as myself, love learning foreign languages. So I loved learning English at school. So when I graduated from high school, my first thought was, I'm going to go over to America. I'm going to be an au pair. I want to come back speaking fluent English. And when I got there, I found that, you know, I lived in Ohio, which wasn't really the most open-minded of areas. And I don't think they've seen that many foreigners or French people. And I remember going to rent a tape, you know, because I'm fairly old. So we were watching, you know, those VCR tapes. And I went and got 2 one weekend, and one of them wasn't working. So I brought it back on Monday and I said, you know, I paid for 2, but 1 didn't work. So can I get a credit? And the person behind the till wasn't particularly pleasant. But on top of that, apparently I wasn't really explaining myself very well. We still agreed that I would get a free tape whenever I came back. I went back there many weeks later. And when I got to the till and explained the situation, she seemed a little bit puzzled and a little bit grumpy. And then she got a piece of paper with my name on it and my ID like number. It was called Blockbuster at the time. At the bottom of it, from behind the till, I could read, doesn't speak very good English. I still remember it today. It was in 1995. And that really hurt me. And see, this could do 2 things depending on your personality. It could make you completely shy away from ever wanting to speak to someone in a shop anymore. Or it could be like me, feeling really hurt, get in the car, have a little tear, and then say, I don't think so. I am going to be so fluent that if I ever meet you one day, my English is going to be better than yours. But we all react really, really, really differently. So our job here today, guys, is to see if we can share little tools with you, but also you can share your stories and perhaps we can give it some thoughts together. So We're going to have, yesterday we're having a meeting about today's class, and Sasha shared something really interesting about his own way of gaining confidence speaking French, even though that's one of his mother tongues, okay, which I think you should hear. And then my colleague Laura is going to share with you a new digital resource that we use with our students called HipKnowledge. You may have heard of it. It is fairly new on the market. I think it's only been brought out 3 or 4 years ago. We have partnered with this French company because we feel that it could be another element of blended learning that we could bring into our language programs. We could really help our learners. As a matter of fact, for our new ambition program that is starting in, here comes Usha. Hi, Usha. Is starting in, that's the new ambition program that is starting in September. We are actually offering all our learners to get set up on the platform 2 weeks before they start that program, for reasons that Laura will help a little bit later on with. So, oh, and also I would love to share, I've put in my notes here, I have a friend who is a language coach for language learners in Washington, DC. We've done some work together, and more recently, can you hear me? Oh, sorry, I just had a note to say, I can't hear you, okay, ignore me. More recently, I ran a series of videos, which you may have seen if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. I've run a series of videos interviewing people whom I felt could really help our learners. And Melissa Chapman, being a language coach for language learners, helps people an awful lot with all their inner feelings and what's happening inside themselves to make them more confident language learners. So for example, she works with a lot of expats in Washington, DC. She has some great things to say about her methodology. So I interviewed her. It was back in the winter. I've got the video, which I will drop in our chat as well. And I thoroughly recommend that you take some time to look at it. It's only about 20 minutes. So without further ado, why don't we start with you, Sasha? And why don't you spend a little bit of time telling us what you told Laura and I yesterday about how you got more confident in recent years speaking French?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. So one of the main things for me is definitely immersion. You have to be in an area where, you know, you can't be bailed out. You can't think, oh, if I don't know this, it's okay because I can just go back to English. And for me, that was going and visiting my French grandparents every summer, every Christmas, Easter, whenever I could be there, I was there from a very young age until even now. And it meant that I was in an environment where, you know, if I didn't know a word or if I was saying things wrong, yes, they would correct me, but in, you know, the nicest way possible. And just very, you know, it never turned into a lecture. It was just, oh no, it's this, not that. And I would pick up on it without even like realizing. And then I find myself making less and less mistakes as time goes on. As well as the fact, you know, I'm with my family, so it's a very comfortable environment. I'm not nervous about making a mistake. But I also appreciate, you know, not everyone has a bilingual family, not everyone has the French grandparents. So another thing was I decided to do French for A-level. So I took my GCSE very young. I was about 12. And it meant I hadn't had structured French lessons in 4 or 5 years. And so I got to A-level and I initially didn't take French, and then I switched the course and took French. But I realized that while my French oral skills were perfect, my writing wasn't as good as it should have been, because I grew up in an environment where I was always speaking French. My mum never sat me down and had me writing French lessons, which I think is a good thing, because I think all that would have done was made me just hate the language. So I decided to do a course at Vichy with Cecile, who we met a few days ago. And she gave me a really structured learning, which brought my French to as close as my English as possible. And that not only did it make me feel better about myself because I was able to finally speak the level of French I've always aspired to, but it just made me more confident. One thing I noticed when I would speak French is I would stutter a lot because I'm catching myself from making mistakes. That happens a lot less because I'm far more confident. And if I do make an error, I almost don't care because I know when I make an error now. And sometimes it's force of habit because I've been saying that same thing wrong for maybe years. But I know when I'm making a mistake, so I don't need to be caught up on it. And that, knowing I have that, just meant I was far more confident in my French ability than I ever was before.
Brilliant, thank you. So for me, what I hear, obviously I know the story, but what I hear here is being in a safe environment, feeling comfortable in an environment where you can make mistakes. That is so important, but also structure. And to me, all these ingredients are vital. If you feel that you are evolving in an environment where making mistakes is part of the norm, and I am 100 to 500% one of these people that believe that no mistakes, no progression in a foreign language. This is virtually impossible. This is the one thing you will learn where making mistakes is part of the journey. Like it's impossible to not make mistakes in a foreign language and progress. No, it's just impossible, isn't it, Laura? Like there's just no two ways around it. So to me, being in a safe and comfortable environment is extremely important, but the structure is also important. So you understand, the more you progress, the more you're motivated and the more confident you get. Would anyone on the call today would like to share their story? It doesn't have to be about French if you are at the very early journey, of your language here. It could be with another language, or it could be with anything that you've learned. How you have gained confidence, and how it happened. Would anyone like to share?
I'd just say that I've got a school friend, an old school friend who moved to Italy when she got married because her family moved to Italy. And every time I go there, I always think I'm going to learn Italian. And like with the French, I can pick out bits of the Italian and get a gist of what they may be saying. But I've tried to self-teach myself and that just didn't really work. So I agree with you about the structure and also being confident. I think speaking in confidence is going to be my biggest hurdle, is being confident to speak the language. It's going to be my biggest hurdle. Yeah, so I was a bit disappointed with that Italian, but obviously I wasn't going the right way. But I'm so excited about the French though, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to work this one out.
And also you've got a huge compelling reason with your granddaughter to want to learn. I mean, you can't match that for sure. I just want to pick up on self-study. I'm a huge believer in self-study. Interestingly enough, despite the fact that I run a company that provides language training programs where we give our students an awful lot of support. The reason why I love self-study is because it means that you are, number one, taking ownership of your own progression, and that helps an awful lot. Number two is the immersion factor. The more you do little bits and pieces there, remember when we talked about the 1 minute rule yesterday, and the more you will be immersed in the language, the more your brain engages in the language, etc. So that snowball effect. But the self-study element means that you take ownership of what's happening, and that is an important part. Having said that, I do not believe that you can learn a foreign language only through self-study. I think we all have, and that may be another discussion for another day, we all have a different definition on what it means to be able to speak a foreign language. We touched upon this really lightly on day one. The term bilingualism is defined extremely differently from one bunch of linguists here to another there, okay? For some, and in our industry, it's a constant debate, isn't it, Laura? Like you watch, you read article on LinkedIn, you go to webinar, there's always a debate on what bilingualism truly means. For some people, it's just being able to get by confidently. For others, it's completely mastery of the language. But this aside, even getting by in a foreign language, I don't believe can be achieved through self-studies only, unless you are clearly really gifted at the language, and also that you spend considerable time on it. It is extremely difficult, even if you're super motivated, to pull yourself together every day and study for a period of time. But most importantly, you don't actually know what you need to do unless you are already a linguist and have analyzed your own way of learning. How, you sit there and go, okay, so like, what do you do then? If I put you in my job tomorrow, you could sit here all day and be very willing. If you've never run a language training company before, with all the willingness in the world, without knowing how we work, what are you going to do? Being polite to customers and offer coffee and answer a few emails politely and courteously, but won't be able to run the company. It's the same thing. So there was a study many, many years ago, about 8-9 years ago, I read a study of people who had learned a foreign language on their own 1 hour each day. Some of them really managed to hold a really decent conversation. Guess how many years it took them to do so? Usha, you would just about be ready for your granddaughter's graduation because it takes 17 years. So I think that you can definitely, because we're talking about confidence, I think you can definitely find confidence in the routine that you're going to have. The little kick that you get. I know you want to go on the Ambition program, like you're going to get a platform with lots of different short, authentic French videos. If you get into the routine of watching a little video, even it doesn't have to be every day. It's not a requirement to do French on our program every day. But even if you go every other day for 5 minutes, you're going to get a huge amount of confidence out of that. And in the early stages, the confidence is not going to come out of the language that you learn, because it takes a little bit longer than that. The confidence is going to come out of commitment that you've made to really get on with that. That's where the confidence will come from. So don't be discouraged by the fact that you had already told yourself you may learn Italian and you didn't do it. I've been saying that I want to learn Spanish for a very long time, and I'm not very far yet, and I have the team to help me. Having a compelling reason, guys, truly is, quite wonderful. Sasha went to Valencia this summer. He came back saying that he really wanted to learn Spanish. And I thought, great, let's do it together. I've always thought I should either learn Spanish or Italian. But now he's saying that after university, he wants to do a master in Italy. So I'm like, oh, well, if he learns Italian, maybe I'll learn Italian. It's a little leisurely activity for me. I was a lot more focused when I was learning English. So once you know why you're learning, even if it's just a serious hobby or personal development, and once you have a plan, you'll definitely get there. And we're going to kick your butt anyway, just so you know. That's part of the prize. It's part of the package. You pay for that as well. You're welcome. Lynn, would you share, because obviously you've got a lovely story, you're English, you've lived in France for a number of years, and you feel that you've reached a bit of a plateau with your French learning, and you'd like to go for French nationality, so you need to take an exam. Any stories that you could share with us on how confident you've been from the early stages of you learning French until now? And now, if you're not really getting to the B1 level you'd like to get to, is this a confidence thing? Is this anything else?
It's kind of a mix, I guess. When I first arrived in France, my children were all under 5. So in school, I had to communicate for them. So I was forced to speak French. And I felt that I was progressing really, really well to start with. But now they're all teenagers doing baccalaureate and above, and there's no input from me. I have no part of it. So I don't need to speak French for them anymore. I'm still forced to speak French in certain circumstances. When my children were younger, I made a rule that I had to speak French every day. Even one sentence to somebody, I had to speak French. So the poor mums at the school gate started to avoid me because they didn't want to have to put up with my French. So it was a bit difficult for that. I did make some absolutely lovely friends, the other mums, the friends of my children. So I made some lovely friends who'd invite me for coffee, and we'd speak French about, day-to-day things. So yes, I was progressing. And at that time I was having lessons. It was only once a month. It was a retired Frenchman whose wife ran gîtes, and he just did it for a little bit of extra money. So whenever there was anything I heard that I didn't understand, or maybe I hadn't been able to explain well, I would make a note of it and then ask to review it in the lesson. But it became difficult because the other people in the class, in the group, kind of resented me taking over 5 minutes of their lesson to do that. So you've got hurdles all the way, I think, and you've got to find a way to get around those hurdles. But now, as you know, I'm an English teacher, so I speak English all day in my job. Just the occasional conversation with a secretary or something in French, or administration in French. And I speak English at home to maintain my children's English, because they speak French all day. So that is that. So I lost my confidence in a big way when I was mocked by some colleagues, English colleagues. And now I refuse to speak French in their presence. So there we go.
Well,
so this is why now I have no confidence in French.
So, well, first of all, I'm very sorry to hear that, and I can totally relate, okay, because it's happened to me as well. It's happened when I was in America. It's also happened in England. I get complimented on my English very often, and I often say that, perhaps I was quite lucky. I've never really had a strong French accent. I always had a bit of a flair for the language, but I also worked extremely hard at it to gain respect. And it's a little sad, because I think that we should, all accept each other, and the world would be a better place. But facts are that people like yourself still get hurt by unpleasant comment. So I'm really sorry about this, and I really want to try and talk about things that you can do to go around that, because I think that your story is very interesting, and it is yet a story that shows that you need the right environment, you need the right people in front of you, you need the right structure. Going out and live in France is not going to make you completely fluent if you don't have all this in place. That there's really this common belief that all you have to do is kind of export yourself from one country to another, and whilst it will go a long way into helping you to improve your language skills, it will not make you completely fluent. I have countless stories of people who have not managed to be completely fluent because they kind of just left it to being in the country and hoped for the best, and it's just not worked. I think for me, from what you said, the key word really is environment. You know, you talked about the environment when you took your children to school. Suddenly that environment is taken away from you because they speak French like native kids and so don't need you anymore. Then you find yourself in an environment with this gentleman that was helpful, but perhaps not really the right structure. And now you teach English all day. And so, you just don't really have the time to practice. Laura, you may not have the answer. This is not a prepared question, but on the back of what Lynn says, or just said, you are an English person as well, even though you've been raised bilingually, just like Sasha, English is your stronger language. Do you have any tips for Lynn? Have you also ever been in this environment, in this situation?
I think anyone who has ever dared to speak a foreign language in front of other people has had some kind of negative comment, has been mocked. It's horrible, and people, I think, often don't realize the bravery that it takes. And also, let's not forget that a lot of people who are going to mock an accent are people who only speak one language and who often make mistakes in their own language. Do you know how many times that has happened to me as well? People would hear me, for example, when I was very young. My dad is Belgian. He didn't speak excellent English. He didn't speak any English when we arrived in England. So I would speak to him in French when I was young, and I would hear the people in the queue in front of us just mocking us for speaking another language, which, is just baffling anyway. So I think that firstly, it's knowing that you're not alone in that feeling of having been mocked by someone for an accent or for speaking another language. I don't know why people do it, but they do. So I think firstly, is kind of building that resilience of saying, you know what, but I've gone there and I've tried and I've done it and I have communicated what I need to get. And then that is, that is the goal of language. That's the goal of what you're learning, to be able to communicate something. So I feel for you a lot that you have decided not to speak in French with these other ladies, but I fully understand that sometimes, it does have a huge knock on our confidence. So part of language learning really is as well building that confidence in the second language or the other language to really build yourself up. In terms of practical tips, I think it depends on the kind of person you are as well. It's so personalized for you, but I think that it is, firstly remembering that you are alone. You're not alone in that feeling of feeling mocked by somebody else for speaking another language, that it's just something that happens to everybody. And secondly, that you're so brave for trying and for doing it and for daring to speak to somebody, because it can be very, very intimidating as well. So I think it's just, the more that we practice and the more you do it, the more you build resilience and the less that it affects you. I mean, sometimes I grew up speaking bilingually, like Sasha, but I struggled a little bit with the writing side of it because I didn't grow up writing French. So sometimes I will write a message that isn't perhaps as eloquent as I would have liked it to have been. And even, at mine and Sasha's stage and Natalie's stage now, where we are so proficient in our other languages, sometimes we make little mistakes. Sometimes people laugh at what we say. That's part of being a human as well, and daring to put yourself out in the world. So I'm afraid I haven't really answered the question of practical tips, but I think it really is just building that resilience up, whatever that means for you, that resilience to be able to continue daring to put yourself out there. And just the more you practice, and now sometimes we just let those comments wash over us. You don't even listen to it. It doesn't affect us so much.
To just grab on to what Laura said about, her and Sasha and I still make mistakes in English, but then so do I in French. I think, that's the beauty about speaking the foreign language. It's not a scientific equation. 2 + 2 can be 4, it can be 4.2, it can be 4.7, providing you put your point across, it works. So I don't think that anyone can honestly say that they make no grammatical mistakes or structural mistakes in their own mother tongue. So that's the way I look at it. The way I look at it is, I've been here for 21 years. I think my level of English is very good. Could it be better? Probably. Do I still make mistakes? Of course I do. But then so do I in French, especially when your brain starts to think into languages all the time. So think about it as a mistake when you speak a foreign language. a slightly strong accent, all of that to me is a sign of bravery. It's also really, because at least you've tried and you've put yourself out there. That brings me to say that there is an element of being willing to put yourself out of your comfort zone. I can give you all the best tools in the world. I can, you know, map out everything that I've learned in the last 20 years of running a language training company. I can show you the amazing results that we've had with our students. I know what we do works. You will need to get a little bit out of your comfort zone at some point. That's just a huge element of wanting to learn a foreign language. And to the point of Laura, she still makes mistakes when she, say, for example, wants to write a blog in French. I do the same in English. So we send each other's work. And we spoke about that, didn't we? I can't remember what day it was. We spoke about having a language buddy, someone with whom you can be without being judged. You know, I'm Laura's boss. I could say, well, I'm not going to send you a blog because surely I should like write a blog without mistakes. Absolutely not. Part of progressing is also being vulnerable, is also saying when we need help. That works for anything in life. So if I write an article or for our website or for the newspaper, or, you know, this masterclass that we've run, this is the first time we've run it. We've had amazing feedback. So we've spoken about putting it into an entire booklet that we can then give people, and that will be our blueprint of how you should be prepared before starting a language program. When we design it, I'm likely to say to Laura, you know, it's going to be in English. I'm likely to say to Laura, you know, how does that sound? Should I change that? Prepositions in English are a nightmare. When do you say to or at or by? Oh, nightmare. So I still have times when I say to Laura, do you say like to or at? And you know what makes me feel good? Is sometimes I can see she needs to think about it. So it tells me that I've got, it's legitimate when I ask the question. But find a language body, someone you can pair it with, someone you can ask questions to, because that will really, really help you. I miss being a chatterbox. Is that you, Lynn? Oh yeah. Don't people, oh great, right. Oh, that's really good. So, you know, another thing as well, Lynn, is there something or somewhere where you can go, be it where you live in France or online, where you could have this little safe place? Is there a little group you can find? Is there, you know, a little club that you can go to? Could it be online? You know, we talked about Facebook group the other day. I've actually got to know people on Facebook groups just because we had the same interest, and then we ended up chatting. I was chatting to a lady last night, and I mean, obviously that was in English, but I'm thinking, you know, could they be somewhere you could go? Or, you know, we definitely, people who come on our ambition program, we really tried as much as we can to match people up and say, try and have even just once a month, a little virtual coffee together. It's really, really, really helpful. Having the community around you will definitely help you progress. So it would be really nice now for us to kind of showcase this new platform called Hypknowledge. What I'm going to do, so Laura's going to take care of that, because Laura, as well as running the French company, is also our language coordinator, and we've got 3 different digital platforms that we add to the blend, I like that word, of our language programs, 2 for adults and 1 for children. And Laura is the expert. She knows them way better than I do. So just a little bit of background about Hypknowledge, and then I will send you, I've got a couple of videos, actually, 1 in French, 1 in English. I interviewed the founder of Hypknowledge, the psychologist and hypnotherapist. One of them is 3 of them who've decided to put together a digital platform in order to help people learn foreign languages. So I will send you both videos. You can watch them in French and English. One of them, the one in French, is from the founder. The one in English is from one of their business development manager who speaks fluent English. The one little thing I want to say before I hand over to Laura is this is not a sales pitch. We do not make any money out of using HipKnowledge. We pay the company a fee, which is the exact same fee you would pay if you went and bought it yourself. So when we promote HipKnowledge, it's really because we are constantly researching new resources out there that could really potentially help our students. You know, so this is not a sales pitch. We're not financial partners or HipKnowledge or anything like that. We do believe in the platform. We've both used it. We enjoyed it. Cards on the table. Out of about 20 of our students who tried it out, about half loved it and half were not so keen on it. So I just wanted to tell you that. However, it is entirely designed to help primarily confidence building. That's why I thought it would be a really, really good time to present it to you today. So Laura, over to you.
Thank you. So yeah, we're going to take you a little walk through the site, show you exactly what you can do and how it helps you really build on your confidence as well as just your language skills. So to begin with, let's address the name, HipKnowledge. So you might have heard it has the kind of hip, like hypnosis in it. I'm going to begin by saying this is the medical kind of hypnosis and not the kind of show hypnosis where you might see where they click your fingers and you cluck like a chicken. It's not that, okay? That's like a whole show. Hypnosis really is founded on medical and psychological principles of hypnosis in the terms of meditation and things like that. So I don't know if anyone is interested in meditation and things like that, if it's something that you feel works for you or that you believe in. If you do, then HipKnowledge is probably going to be something that you'll enjoy. However, as Natalie said, some people find the concept just frustrating. It's not necessarily their thing. It's like what we said about blended learning. Not everything is going to be your thing, and that's fine. HipKnowledge really works well for people who do very much believe in sort of meditation and that sort of believing in finding your subconscious brain. That is really what the whole platform is about. So I'm going to share my screen and I will show you. So I think normally you can see the screen I have here then. So let's have a look at HipKnowledge. So we have a few different parts of it that I'm going to talk you through. So the first thing you can do when you're open HipKnowledge is a placement test. So this is really nice. And this relates to the SAFA levels that we spoke about. So the A1 all the way up to C2. So the first thing you can do is a little placement test to help you see where exactly you should start. As I said, that this is a placement test that is very much integrated within the platform. So it's less precise than maybe the other ones that we offer from external accredited placement tests as well. This one is just very much to kind of see how you work with the platform and how well you can do the things that are there. So let's have a look. So you have a series of lessons that you can unlock as you go along. So you see, I haven't spent very much time on French one because I haven't been doing French, I've been studying Spanish on it mainly. So you'll see that here I have not very many classes that are unlocked. The more you do, the more it unlocks. So it's very much a structured way, again, as we said, so very important going up. So let's have a look. You can either go by lessons, which are revolved around themes. So this one, Clément et Anaïs font connaissance. So this means that Clément and Anaïs, they are meeting each other and they're going to speak about meetings and greetings. So this, I'm on very basic level. As you can see, you can go up to beginner, intermediate, and expert. So there are a lot of different levels. We'll start with a very basic one though, because the videos, the audio, as we increase in level, do get a little bit longer as well. So I thought we'd just have a very quick look at one of the beginner videos. So we do is we click on the video, the audio, sorry. So the first thing that we can do is listen to the lesson. So the thing that is really interesting about HipKnowledge is that it is accessing your subconscious mind and helping you to feel calm and prepare your brain for learning. That is really what the speciality of this platform is. So you'll see that before we listen to the lesson, we undergo a very short session of hypnosis, they call it. I think when I do these, I think of it more as like a little mini meditation to get you calm, to remove all of those thoughts that are whirring around your brain, just to get you very calm and sort of in the process, in the state ready to learn, really to remove all of the additional information, all of the additional things that we've all got buzzing around our brain all the time, clear that away and get your mind really ready and focused on the language. So you choose either a gentle hypnosis or a deep hypnosis. You know, you can choose, the deep hypnosis is a little bit longer, the gentle hypnosis is a bit shorter, and you can choose the accent that you prefer as well, which is quite nice. So you really personalize it, something that you find very calming and that helps you the best. So should we have a little listen to the, I don't know if you'll be able to hear the sound.
No. Is it playing at the moment? Because I can't hear.
No, okay, I wasn't sure if we were able to hear the sound, so that's all right. We're gonna have a look at this. The first thing essentially is a little mini 2-minute session where the voice that we chose is telling us to close our eyes, we do some deep breathing, and then it's very much about relaxing the mind, relaxing the body, and getting you fully ready to learn. So it really is about preparing your mind and body for that state of learning. The next thing is a little very authentic audio that you will listen to. They suggest you do it while you have your eyes closed so you can really concentrate on the language. I admit that sometimes I do these as they go for a little walk as well. So they suggest that you stay sort of in front of your computer and you close your eyes and you really focus on it. Sometimes I do them while I'm walking to kind of get that into my daily routine again. So it's up to you what you prefer. So you listen to the little audio, it'll be conversations, very functional language. So we're around themes of meeting people, making hotel reservations, talking about school, talking about work, things like that. So you listen through to the audio, and then afterwards we can look at the vocabulary that we will have heard. So we can see we have some little flashcards. We can also click on them to hear how it is said as well, so we can listen to the words. The thing that's interesting here, and the thing that is very revolved around science on how we learn language, is that you see we have the word in French, enchanté. We have the words in English, nice to meet you. We have the sound that you can listen to, and you have a picture. So this is what we were speaking about earlier in the week, where it means that you associate the word with the concept and not just with the translation in English. So this is literally making, I won't go too much into the science, even though I do love that. It's very much making neurological pathways in your brain from the concept to the word or the sounds as well. So it is combining the orthographic, so the written form of the word, the oral, what we hear sound of the word, and the concept, combining these three things together and not necessarily passing through English as a translation for it. So this is why the whole platform of English is very much based around how the brain works as well. It's a very, very, very it's been created by psychologists. It's really something that is revolved around the brain. So you go through the vocabulary, we'll have a look. You go through them all. Then as we come back, afterwards we'll have a look at the grammar and conjugation rules. So the reason we do grammar afterwards is because you would have already heard the discourse, you will have heard the dialogue. Then it points out some of the rules that you would have heard within the audio. So this is very, very much working on helping you, so immersing the language first, and then helping you to recognize the grammatical rules in what you have heard. So this is really great. If we have a look afterwards, we can go to the exercises. So the first kind of exercises, we have grammar and conjugation ones, so working on the rules that you would have just looked at. So does anyone want to help with this one? So vous, something Canadien. So I don't have an idea what word we will put in here. I'll give you a clue. We would have heard it in the audio quite often if we had listened to it. Does anyone have a guess how we could say you are Canadian? You are in the plural. Vous êtes excellent. Perfect, everybody. Well done. Let's check. Let's make sure we're right. Exactly. So we would go through and we would choose the right answers. For example, elle with an S, et de Lyon. il with an S est de Lyon, or C, elle est de Lyon. Does anyone have an idea which one would be the correct answer here? I'll give you a clue that one of them is grammatically correct, the other two are grammatically incorrect. Perfect. Answer C, excellent, great. So as you can see, we go through and these are different kind of answers. Some of them we have to physically produce the language, writing it in, and some of them we just have to receive the language, finding the correct answers. So this is balancing the production and the comprehension side again. We won't go through all of these, as you can have a good look at them all in your own time. So we can continue later, so we can come back to it afterwards as well, which is nice. And then finally, we also have some different vocabulary exercises. So this is again finding the expressions that are related to what we have heard in the text. So it's just exercises really to continue practicing on the language. Afterwards, we also have the thing that is very interesting about hypnolege. As I said, it is all about the science behind the brain. So I would just like to take you to, to the hypnokeys. Let's have a look. So the more you work, the more hypnokeys you gain. So it's kind of like if anyone's used Duolingo, you get the lingos that you can buy special outfits for your owl or stuff like that, which I love, is very fun. In hypnolege, however, the hypnokeys that you get, you can buy, you can unlock different courses. Notice when I say buy, I mean with the currency of the platform, meaning you're not spending extra money on it. It's the more keys that you earn while you work, you can buy different skills. So these hypnoboosts are, as they said, unique hypnosis sessions to improve your abilities and well-being. So this is really where it is helping you unlock that confidence within yourself. They are mini meditation sessions that you can do again and again that focus on improving specific skills that are related to language learning, but that are not learning the language itself. For example, helping you understand how you can improve your memory. It's important to be able to remember new vocabulary, new sentence structures to be able to use them. Increasing your ability to concentrate. Again, very essential as well if we are learning a language. So they are just a series of different skills that you can learn. Increasing your well-being, feeling confident. So there really are sort of soft skills around language learning that are all to do with increasing your confidence and being able to, you know, just feel better within yourself and be able to feel more confident when you are speaking and when you are taking those risks to go and speak with other people. So as I said, it is very, very much the soft skills that are around language learning alongside the actual learning of the language itself. So we'll have a little scroll through. Maybe if you find any that you think you'd be really interested in doing, we can write them in the chat quickly. If you find one that you think, oh, I'd actually really love to do that.
I think the confident in all situations and develop self-esteem can be really good. These are the ones that I recommend the learners who come to us with a really strong willingness to learn the language, but I can tell that a lot of things are holding them back. I often tell them to start with the with this program. Yeah, definitely. And we have about public speaking as well, which is, you know, a skill that we have to develop in our first language as well as our second language. Speaking in front of an audience. So you can see these are very, very much kind of helping on your personal development as well. And the last other thing I wanted to show is we have a psycho-emotional questionnaire. So I have already done the questionnaire, and it is all about evaluating your own psycho-emotional strengths and weaknesses. So it's a series of questions that you can look at to decide whether you are quite sort of strong in certain areas, such as if you feel confident to go and speak to people you don't know or not, and where your weaknesses are in other areas. So to really help you understand what you need to target to improve your own confidence. So I really enjoy hypnolege. I use it quite a lot. I use it every week, actually. I have my little Monday evening scheduled session I do every week. I really enjoy it. I think it's very interesting. I enjoy kind of the relaxation side of it because I can be someone who is maybe a little bit more like a bit
I don't want to say high strung, but someone who is maybe a little bit less calm in certain situations. So for me, I find it's very good to kind of help me relax, remove the stress of the day, and really get into the process of being ready to learn. I think, Natalie, you quite enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, so for me, I enjoyed it because I tried it with Spanish. So within the team, we all tried it with a language that we aspired to learn. I tried it with Spanish, and if you watch the video when I talk to one of their team member, it really is quite incredible, because I could feel after the little bit of relaxation that when I was doing the exercises at my basic level, it was coming out much quicker. I wasn't thinking too much about the answer. I was giving it a go. And, you know, remember that despite the fact that I do the work that I do, I learned English in a very traditional way. When I learned English, there was no digital platforms, there was no blended learning. It was very much, you know, school, very structured learning, which actually for my personality was not very fitted. So for me to go on this platform and have a look at how my brain could change the way that I was learning, I have found it really, really good. But for me, it was just really that. I would listen, do the little exercises, and I felt that it was flowing. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't always getting the answers right, but I was just going for it. So for me, I felt that the confidence in giving it a go, that app was really giving me that.
I found as well, I think it's really helped my oral comprehension as well. So I can see it when I'm doing other activities in Spanish, if I'm trying to watch TV in Spanish or something like that, listening to YouTube videos. I feel that my oral comprehension has really boosted in the last couple of months as well, which I think is hugely down to that as well.
Lynn is asking a very pertinent question. I know the answer to the first one. I'm not entirely sure about the second one. Are the keys in the language you're learning only in English? No. So if it's in English, or for me, it would be in French. Okay, so for me, the platform is in French and the target language is in Spanish. Can you change between both? I don't believe you can, Laura, can you?
I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure. So that is a really interesting question that I will research. I'll look into it and I'll let you know, but I don't think that you can. Although actually, I can change my native language on English. So I suppose in theory, yes, you could just go and change your native language and then do it in that language. So I think actually in theory, you probably could do it, but I'm not 100% sure. I would have to look into it for you.
And for me, the reason why I really, really like this platform, and again, we're not here to promote it for any financial gain. The reason why I really like it is because for us, it ticks a couple of boxes. For us, it adds the variety to the blended learning approach that we keep talking about. And secondly, it is really helping our learners with confidence building. So that's why I really, really like it. And I agree with you, Lynn, just reading your comment. In the early stages, do it in your language, 100%. It is also why when people join our program, we give them unlimited access for the first 2 weeks of the program, because we really ask them to get into a little routine of using it. It's proven to be really effective when people use it every day or every other day. We did, Laura picked a lot of students and she did loads of trials to see what was working best. And as a result, okay, some of our students love it, so they just use it. They have a membership every month. Some students trialed it and weren't so keen, but what we have found is just to use it in this short, compact time of 2 weeks before the Start by Language programs was working wonders. That's why we've now incorporated it into the Ambition program. And again, for some students, they carry on using it after because it's really their thing. But all of them start with this. It's really, really good. Do you have any questions for Laura around the platform? No? So if I can just briefly summarize all we've spoken about today, we really spoke about all the tools that we looked at on day 1, 2, 3, and 4, the planning to help you to be confident learners. Confidence definitely be the key word today. And obviously in this session, we looked at various ways of getting you to be confident in that language. I think we've agreed that this is a very inner, deeper, personal feeling, and we're not all going to find the answers in the right thing. But we talked about a safe and comfortable environment. We talked about structure. We talked about getting out of our comfort zone. We talked about having the right environment. We talked about daring. We talked about finding a community, connections with people, and finding a language body. Okay. We could take a few minutes if Gina wanted to answer Lynn's question. So Lynn says, it's not about the platform, but I'd love to know how Gina stays motivated with all the languages that she is learning. Gina, would you like to answer that?
Well, most of my languages, I learned English in school. And 2 years later, I added French because it was either French or Latin or Greek, which Latin didn't appeal to me, or Greek either. So I was like, French, okay. And Italian came after my school. I learned that by myself because I was in love with an Italian guy. And so you learn the language, right? And I traveled to Turkey. I like the language. I like the people. So I just learned that by myself. Again, and the same with Greek. And it's not that I don't keep up with all of them now, but I still can speak Italian pretty decent. My French is really rusty and basic. Even so, it was at one point one of my favorite language. But I've always also been forced. I was the first one in the family to speak a different language. So it always, when we went somewhere, my parents, they kind of took me and shoved me. There you go, translate. And I'm like, we're going to Spain. And my parents go shopping, and my father just pushes me to the counter and tell them, I want this cheese and I want that cheese. I said, Dad, I don't speak Spanish, I speak French.
Well, we did it by getting out of your comfort zone, you know.
Yeah, and I was like, but I made it work between French and Italian. I made it work, and the guy actually, and I actually found I'm a naturally shy person until I get to know somebody. But when it's language, when I hear you have an accent, and I'm like, hello, how are you? Where are you from? Oh, it's got such a cute accent. And then I get interested, or I love to cook. I cook anything from Turkish cuisine to Philippine, to Japanese, to Chinese, to Indian. And so naturally, I'm curious about the language as well. So, and that's what motivates me, is just, I'm a Gemini. What can I say? I have 1,000 projects on my plate.
And do you know, Gina said something which made me realize that we all have different goals when it comes to language learning. We all have an ideal kind of level that we'd like to reach, but please do not compare yourself to other learners. Some students would rather know a little bit of a lot of languages. Other people would rather just focus on one. It's really not about comparing yourself, but asking, as you did, Lynn, how do you stay motivated? I think, Gina, you've illustrated a lot of things we've spoken about, didn't you? Because, well, your dad did may seem a bit cruel to some. He did get you out of your comfort zone. You probably got, a lot of confidence out of that. You love to go to other people. I love the fact that you talked about, oh, I love cooking, I love this, I love that. That brings the conversation together. Laura is right. She said accent is a point of conversation, 100%. But also what's quite remarkable is you said, I am a shy person. Please don't ever assume that the best people in language learning are extroverts, because this is completely untrue.
Here's the thing though, as soon as I'm talking to somebody in another language, my shyness goes away. And I have found, while I can really truly emphasize with Lynn, she was made fun of, I have only had the warmest embraces from everybody when I'm in Turkey and I just ask for some chai lütfen and they go, oh my God, she speaks Turkish, blonde lady speaking Turkish. And it's like, and they bring me gifts and embraces and food. And it's like, I can't eat any more food. Or every house you go to, you need to eat a 10-course meal. And it's like, oh my God. And it's like, you just say 2 words and they're like, wow. And that has happened pretty much everywhere.
A little language goes a very long way. You know, when Sasha spoke about his childhood, I remember when we used to go to France and he was younger and he would speak French to anyone around him. And quite a few times he started to make friends in my parents' village and they go around the swimming pool and all play together. And I remember a few times when a few children went, he just said that. Like he just said that, because he may have got the masculine or the feminine wrong, the pronoun wrongs, you know, the order of the pronouns in French are hardly a walk in the park. Everyone clearly understood what he had said. He was speaking in a perfect French accent. There was no hint of English at all, but in the way sometimes he structured his sentences or did a bit of English grammar with French words, you know, it was a little bit wobbly. And I remember children going, oh, he just said that, he just said that. And I always stood back and observed him to see if his confidence got kind of knocked out of that. It's clearly quite a strong-willed child, which could have helped. However, all he then needed to do was turn around and speak to his brother in English. And the minute the children could see that he could look right and speak to them in French and look left and speak to his little brother in English, that shut them off instantly. It's like, oh, but he can do that and we can't. So in any sometimes uncomfortable situation, there's always but I can do this, but I can also do that. And, you know, if you get free food, I think it's definitely worth getting out of your comfort zone, right? That made me want to try Turkish, that does, especially Turkish is delicious.
Turkish food is very delicious.
Thank you very much. And we're going to finish on that because I think it's wonderful. Lynn said, Gina, you're my inner chatterbox. See, I think you two could definitely pair up and be language bodies. I think that would work very well. So ladies, thank you very much for having been here today. It was a real pleasure. We'll be here again tomorrow. Again, I will reiterate what I said yesterday. This is a 9-day French masterclass. The first few days were, a great deal of content into learning strategies and planning. From today until the end, it's a lot more of open discussion, of sharing stories. And if you feel that now you've got the right tools to go away and learn French on your own or whatever you are already currently doing, then that's absolutely great. I appreciate your time. You do not have to come back. We will start to talk to you in a little bit more details about our French Ambition program. Very briefly, the French Ambition program is a 12-month program to learn French on your way to French bilingualism, whatever that term means to you. It's very much bridging the gap between app and self-study and casual learning and part-time or full-time language courses, okay? It's very much in the middle. It's a lifestyle program. It's a serious hobby, but it isn't self-study and just looking at something a few hours a week, and it certainly isn't part-time or full-time. Okay, we expect you to have a life outside of that program, but it does give you a lot of resources and a lot of support, and it completely plays on the strength of blended learning, which we have spoken about so many times. Over the course of a year, you will have 150 hours of learning. That's our aim for you. That those hours will be divided between small group classes, one-on-one, and self-study material. So you're going to have an awful lot of resources and people that you can tap into. Okay, but we'll talk a bit more about it tomorrow. We can send you information if you like. Tomorrow is all about interacting with students. So we've invited Matt. Matt is a great French student. He's been at the academy for, I think, about 6 months. And we love the story that he shares. We love the story that he shares because he has told us many times that he thought at school that he could never learn French, that it wasn't for him, until at an adult age, I think he's 40 years young, he decided that he absolutely loved France, and he made a real commitment to learn the language and potentially buying a property out there. But he's got really great stories to tell. So we've invited him. I invited other students as well, so they can all share their stories with you, and you will be very welcome to ask them questions as well. So we went a little bit over today by 10-15 minutes, but I think it was very, very worth it. It was lovely to hear all your wonderful stories. And as always, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out personally. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful end of the week, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Au revoir. Merci bien.